Conservatives want you to suffer. Why is this, and what is their end game? So we have to go back to the beginning of capitalism as we know it, the Industrial Revolution 250 years ago or so. And Max Weber, a sociologist in 1905, spoke about the Protestant work ethic. And this was the idea that if you work hard, you spend as little as possible, you're frugal. When you die, you'll receive the benefits, reap the rewards of a modest and hard working life. And Weber argues that this really led to capitalism and the focus on labour, work hard, and that moral relationship between someone who works hard and someone who deserves what they get from their labour, and their moral worth really is based on how hard they work. And that is definitely part of capitalism today. It's our neoliberal ideology that you get where it's a kind of the myth of meritocracy. Your position in life depends on how hard you work, but we all know that often there's no correlation between hard work and your position on the hierarchy. So that suffering is it's almost a religious, very Christian suffering of suffer now and in an afterlife. But obviously the UK is quite a secular country, but even we work some of the longest hours in Europe, and so does America. It's even more ingrained, that kind of work hard. And a key change I think now is people work hard, but they're not as frugal. We are encouraged to work, want, and the cycle continues. And this makes people miserable. A lot of people suffer from this kind of just nihilistic, dead life where on some strange level they kind of get an enjoyment from the suffering, but it is suffering nonetheless. And the ruling classes, the bourgeoisie, the capitalist class, want you to suffer because they're just extracting the labour from you, pulling it out until you're dead and boosh. You are disposable. They don't care about you, and they truly do want you to suffer. They will pay you the least amount they can get away with legally, with the minimum wage. They will just expect so much of you. 9 to 5 doesn't really exist anymore. You're expected to do work outside of work, reply to emails, training, a whole host of extra bits of unpaid labour. The amount of overtime that is paid in America that isn't paid in the UK and America is in the billions. So you've got that religious capitalist element, and then you've got the deeper philosophical element of conservatism. And a lot of conservatives like to talk about personal responsibility, family values, and I will do a video on those in the future because I think they're very specific and very interesting. But what does that really mean? I think really when you look at the political left and right, it's really just a simple line of, on one side you've got egalitarianism, so basically equality. People are basically the same, all of us really, no matter what your race, your gender, your sex, your sexuality. And on the other side you've kind of got the opposite, where essentially conservative values of kind of work hard. If you don't meet certain values of what we consider in this case someone who works hard, you kind of, whatever happens to you. It's almost like a dog eat dog thing. It's like they very much use that fallacy of nature, so it's survival of the fittest. Whereas really Anybody who has a basic knowledge of evolutionary psychology or how we evolved, basically humans evolved through cooperation. It wasn't competition. Capitalists like to talk about the idea that, yeah, it's competition that drives innovation. This is not true. Most of the innovations come from tax-paying sources in America. For example, a lot of MIT, a lot of technology in the iPhone comes from taxpayer-funded technology. And often this science is based on cooperation. Scientists working together and developing technology over years. And it's that human cooperation which has led to most innovation. It's not individuals like Elon Musk or Bill Gates that innovate. It's the people below them, the scientists who actually do the work and often aren't really credited or paid fairly for their work. So to come back to suffering, that's all they want you to do. It's literally that conservative personal responsibility is, if you don't work hard, you're a failure. And for a lot of people, businesses fail all the time. Putting that whole stress of someone that if they don't meet certain expectations does lead to a lot of mental health issues, depression, anxiety. Just go back to 1950s America. The view that women were happy, men were happy, the male went to work, who was the provider, the woman stayed at home, she cooked, she cleaned. These were deeply depressed people. The amount of women who were on antidepressants, or obviously antidepressants didn't exist then, but the kind of equivalent of the time tranquilizers is wild, because they knew they weren't happy, they were suffering, that this ideology did not favour them, but they put a brave face on it. And that's what people do. Your average piece of people now, and I'm specifically talking about the UK and America, but even broader, put a brave face on the system that they know they're unhappy, their relationships are dysfunctional, the family doesn't talk to them, they scroll through the internet searching for a dopamine hit of, I'll get a new car, I'll get a bigger house, yada yada yada. Always wanting more because their life is empty, and the only really value they have in life is work. And people don't really realise that most people on their deathbed don't really, there's plenty of data on this, don't really reflect back on their life and go, I wish I had worked more, or bought more stuff, or accumulated more wealth. No, they talk more about more connection, family, friends, taking the risks they wanted to. So, to conclude, the ruling elite have got us trapped. In many ways, slavery is just transformed into a more subtle form of control, because it's about control. The fact that we don't own the means of production, which is socialism, the fact that it's authoritarian, every business is led from the top down, but also simultaneously we value democracy, is one of the biggest harms facing humanity. We need the workers to own the means of production, to have a stake in their business, because we know the data is clear that if you own a part of your business, you're going to work harder, businesses can take shocks more in the economy, and you're just going to have more investment in your work. You're going to work harder, and you're not necessarily going to do it for the money, but you're going to do it for the people you work with, the business, the success, and people are just going to be happier and get paid more and have a bigger stake in the pie. So that's all I have for you in this video. Comment below. What do you think of the conservative ideology? Is suffering inevitable? And I'll see you in the next video.